Hey guys, welcome back. In today's video we're going to just have a brief overview of some of the rail and components I'm going to be using as I begin the handling process. Just as a recap, we completed gluing down, sanding, and the two-part coloring process of the ties in the section of the layout I'm working on at this time. I'm dividing the layout into sections only because I want to do the work I want to do, get it to a certain point before I move on to another area. That way I don't forget anything, I don't skip anything, and for me it just helps it stay in order in my mind, if you will. So that said, what we got in front of us here, in the background obviously, is some ME Flex-Track I've got put down here. Closer to the camera view, we've got two sections of rail. Both are code 148. The rail nearest to the camera is steel. Let me zoom in a little bit here for you. Okay, there in the shot there you can see the difference in appearance. Again, this one in front is steel, the one behind it is nickel silver. As you can see and would expect, a nickel silver track has a bit of a goldish, yellowish hue to it. The steel rail obviously does not. Okay. A lot of times I hear folks concerned about using steel rail with regards to it corroding, that type of thing, rusting, you know. This steel rail, this section here, and many others like it, I've had sitting down here in my basement and on the floor of the basement. And I can tell you, this entire piece and all the other ones have no corrosion on them whatsoever. Okay, they've all been wiped down. They've all just been sitting ever since I purchased them initially. So what does that mean? Well, all that means is this rail didn't corrode. However, if you've got a really damp basement or you live, you know, close to the coast, salt air, that type of thing, your obviously results are going to be a bit different. But again, I just wanted to show this shot just to kind of highlight the differences in the color of the track. And then, again, just a slight difference that you will see in the railhead itself. Obviously not a big deal. I've worked with both the steel and the nickel silver. The steel cuts files very easily, a lot easier than I guess you would expect, you know, with it being steel. Same thing with the nickel silver. It cuts and files just as well. They both bend equally as well. There's no problems. I'm going to widen back out here for a moment just to kind of give a little bit of an example here. This little piece right here, I bent. Okay, and as you can see here, I did it just for this video here. It's a scrap piece. It's kind of a oddball shape, but it's steel. It's a piece of steel rail. No problem. I bent this over the top of my leg, to be honest with you, and came out okay. I guess that's what happens when you got big legs. So anyhow, moving on though, again, the pre-made Flex-Track is in the background. This is the rail in the foreground we're going to be using. I'm going to reposition the camera and just go over some of the other detail parts that are going to be getting incorporated into the track work, again, as we begin the handling process. All right, welcome back. What you're looking at here, again, it's just a brief little overview, again, of some of the components I'm going to be using to handle the track with. Obviously, in the background here, a good set of spiking pliers. For me, I find I like to work with these better. You can use regular just needle nose pliers if you like. I prefer these better, as I mentioned in earlier videos, just because if you look in the head of the pliers there, I don't know if you can see that, it's machined out and it holds the spike in a very nice fashion, gives you a nice good positive feel on there, and prevents the spike from kind of walking around on you while you're trying to drive it in. I prefer that. Some others don't. This little screwdriver here I use to actually help slide the tie plates underneath the rail. It's a nice squared off tip, and it allows me to get right on the leading edge of this tie plate rather, and push it in. Nice good little tool to use since I've got some bigger fingers, makes it a little bit hard to get in there. So since I touched on that, I'm going to go ahead and, again, we'll just go over this. This is one of the tie plates. Okay, I'm going to be utilizing, these are from Right Away Industries. Again, I've mentioned in other videos, I'd suggest you go ahead and check out their website, take a look at their parts and components and the rail they have to offer. They've got quite a wide selection of products, and the prices are real good, and the product you get is excellent. I can't say enough about it. Another thing I'm going to be utilizing here, these are joint bars, sometimes called fish plates, slang term. These are, in particular, are 6-bolt. If you take a look here, see if I can move this in a little bit. These are 6-bolt. These typically you'd see on mainline track. Again, these are utilized to join two sections of rail together in the prototype world. They get the rails drilled and bolted together, and these bars help hold the rail in place and maintain proper alignment of those rails. In yards or sidings or industry leads, you might see these same joint bars, and instead of being a 6-bolt, they're only a 4-bolt. And you can go ahead and use these for the same thing. It's obviously cut 2 off, and you'll be left with a nice 4-bolt joint bar there. These are held on with either super glue, or you could spike them in place. I found putting just a dab of super glue behind it and adhering it to the rail works really well. And then I'm still able to come back later with the spikes and insert those too. Over here we have insulated joint bars. What these are again a 6-bolt joint bar, but on the back, if you were to cut them off the sprue here in between each individual one, you'll notice on the back there's a raised area. Okay, that raised area there is what's going to act as your buffer between two sections of rail to keep them electrically isolated. Okay, again, these work great. Same thing, I glue them in place on one rail. I leave the other side of the rail free to move. I don't want everything glued together, soldered together. I want the rail to have the ability to expand and contract slightly with the environmental changes. So again, I'll glue these to one rail, and the other rail that it's joining up to, I will not. I will just leave it free floating, and it works just fine. It maintains the gap. The part is able to be held in place just fine. On the opposing side, I will insert a spike down in there, but I won't really drive it down tightly. I'll leave it just a hair loose, again, to maintain that flexibility for the expansion and contraction. Right here, obviously, self-explanatory, we've got some spikes. These are some cast nickel silver rail joiners. Okay, again, excellent detail. Same thing, 6-bolt pattern. These are to be utilized when we are joining two sections of rail together and we want to maintain electrical conductivity. Some guys like to solder these to both rails. Others do not. Others like to just put these in place and then have jumpers, I shouldn't say jumpers, feeders actually attached to every section of the rail. Okay, so every section of rail gets a drop. Other guys will put these in place and maybe solder one side, and again leaving the other side loose, and then just solder a jumper wire in. You know, whichever you prefer to do. But when you install these, you actually need to notch the rail out a little bit so that the two pieces of rail can join together and make a nice, solid, tight joint. When it comes time to do that, I'll cover that in the video and show you what I mean by notching the rail and how it's done, why it's done, and once you're able to see it, it'll make a lot more sense to you. Just some switch components I thought we'd go over real quick. These are, again, some guardrails. These are, again, cast nickel silver. These obviously are going to get utilized in our turnouts, and self-explanatory, they're guardrails. Again, excellent detail. The backs of these, if you notice, there's these little lugs on the back. Okay, I have found that no matter how good the casting process is, there always going to be a little bit of excess material, or a flash is, you know, what it's called. Sometimes you'll need to might come in here with a Dremel, grind things down a little bit to fine tune it. In some cases too, I found that a little bit of massaging with these is in order to get them to seat properly up against the rail. And again, so we can maintain proper spacing for the wheel flange as it passes through. But again, we'll cover that when we get to that point in the videos. This is just a switch point, one of many. Again, this is a cast piece from Right Away. Okay. These come in two different lengths. I want to say like 16 feet 8 inches, and I think like a 20 foot. depending on the number of size of your turnout. This particular one here is the 16 footer. Again, a cast piece. This is an old one I'd use for some other projects I'm not going to be using right now. But again, if you take a look at this, you can see there's just a lot of nice cast-in detail here. Okay, very nice stuff. Okay, these marks in the back are from me, so ignore that. Again, and these are designed to just slip onto the rail. Sometimes guys will leave these loose. Sometimes they will solder them, so it'll act as a solid switch point as opposed to a hinged switch point. Myself personally, I like to put just a slight subtle bend into these and solder it here, so it'll act as a solid switch point. And even though it's a little bit more rigid to throw the switch, I prefer it. It's a more solid connection, in my mind at least. I'm not saying it is, but that's what I like, what I prefer. So that's how I'm going to do it. But again, when it comes time to do that in the video, when we get to those, you'll see all that taking place. Other component here, this is a number 8 frog. Okay, this is number 8 bolted frog. Again, if you look at the side here, you'll see there's wonderful, excellent bolt details. Okay, excellent component. With these as well, I found got to do just a little bit of grinding just to clean them up a little. But again, that's just from the casting process. There's nothing wrong with the part. There's no flaws in these things. These are excellent components. I can't say enough about these things. So if you're looking for the detail and you're looking for some good quality components, really, I can't say enough. Go check out Right Away. I'll put their link in the description of this video so you can go check them out. Take a look what they have. If you have questions, give them a call. You can talk to the owner of the operation now, Jay Criswell. He's a heck of a nice guy, and I have no doubt you'll have a wonderful conversation with him. Very helpful. Definitely check them out. Take a look at the products. You won't be disappointed. Good stuff here. And here we just got a typical NMRA track gauge. A lot of guys like to roll with a 3-point gauge or a rolling gauge made out of bar stock or something. Me personally, I go with this. It's what I used last time. It's what I'm going to use this time. And it's got everything I need in one place. Obviously, with the tabs at the base here by my finger, I can check the track gauge. In this top corner here, we could check the flange spacing for the flanges. Minimum and a maximum gauge. Kind of think of it as like a go, no-go kind of thing. Okay. We've got the other corner here, which is dedicated to measuring the spacing and gapping of the switch points. Okay, so again, one tool does it all. A lot of guys don't like to work with it because you have to hold it, in place with one hand if you're trying to maintain your track gauge. It can be a bit cumbersome. Myself, I liked it. I didn't have any problems with it. It worked well, and that's what I'm going to be going with again this time. And there's going to be some other detail parts that are going to be thrown in there as well. These are some cast gauge plates to be utilized in the switches and stuff as well. These earlier tie plates, insulated joint bars, as well as the regular joint bars. These are injection molded plastic. Again, glued on, spiked on, whichever you prefer. But at any rate, that was just a quick little overview to kind of recap what I'm going to be using. When I'm actually doing the videos, and I'm going to let the camera run while I film, while I lay certain components and sections, and especially when we start doing the turnouts. Excuse me, I want to try to figure out a way to shoot more of an overhead shot, looking straight down on the turnout, because I think it'll be easier if you can just look at the switch or the turnout being built in place and the components being installed, and seeing it from overhead. I think that'll give you the most unobscured view and the best look at what's going on, the angles that are involved, that type of stuff. So, and how I get everything pre-wired with the turnout as it goes in place, how I'm going to solder everything up and get everything fed through the sub-road bed and so forth. And so again, future videos coming, but like I said, that was just a quick little overview. Thought I'd just touch base and talk about some components for a little bit, so hope you enjoyed it, and stay tuned. A lot more stuff coming, guys.